Howdy, welcome to Cofield Country Outdoors. Today we're going to go through trap preparation from beginning to end. Now every year I boil my traps, wax them, and I believe it's essential to protecting your traps to keep the longevity of the trap. So these traps were trapped all year, and now they're time to be cleaned. Well, anyways, so let's go through the process. The first thing we're going to do is each individual trap we're going to go through, and we're going to get all the junk out of that trap. So I'm going to set this trap. And I'm going to do this to each and every trap I got. And I've probably got 100 traps. So it takes a little bit of time. So I'm going to open the trap. I see that little bit of filler that I had in there. I got to get that out. All right, I'm going to inspect my trap. I'm going to make sure it operates properly. So click down to my night latch. Operates great. So the next step is I want to get a water hose and wash all the mud, dried up mud and blood and as much of the loose stuff that I can get off this trap. So let me get my water hose. So now I got my water hose here, and I'm just going to take this, put it on jet, and I'm going to spray as much of that loose mud from last year and blood off. I'm going to get it relatively clean. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. I've got all the loose mud and leaves and grass and stuff off of it. So now I'm going to finish the rest of these traps, and we'll start the boiling process. Alright guys, now I've got all my traps washed off with the water hose, and all that did was take off the I guess loose dirt and stuff from the year past. So anytime I'm doing anything with traps, as far as cleaning them, prepping them, carrying them, I like doing everything in dozens. That way when I'm on the trap line, I know each box of traps I have 1 dozen, and that helps me keep track of my traps. So what I like to do is I like to bind my traps in a dozen. So I take this little old choker that I made, put it on this trap, the first one. So I just thread all my traps on there like so, and I'll continue to do this, and then we'll go over to my pot, and we'll do the initial boiling. I do 2 boilings. I do one with clean water, and then I do one with my poison sumac berries or my logwood dye. Either one's perfectly fine. If you live down in the south and there's a lot of poison sumac berries around, you can boil them in that. Save a little money. This year I'm going to do logwood dye. I think it does just a tad bit better than poison sumac berries. But anyways, so let's run down to the shop and start the boiling process. Just hang tight with me. Alright guys, well I'm in the shop now, and I'm fixing to do my initial boil on a dozen traps. This boil's going to be done with no dyes, no whatsoever. Now this pot, all this pot is a beer keg with the top cut out and a couple handles welded to it, as you can see. And it is an excellent vessel to boil traps. There's plenty of room, and it's just a wonderful thing to use to boil traps. Now, a buddy of mine gave me this. He found it in a junkyard and he gave it to me, which I'm grateful for. But just remember, somebody else's junk can be your treasures, and this makes a great pot for boiling traps, or if you just want to have a crawfish bowl or whatever. Anyways, so I've got my dozen traps, and in the initial bowl, stick them down in there, and I'm gonna get them on their initial bowl with no dye. And this is another reason I like using a choker. I can just lay it to the side right there, and that way when I'm ready to pull them, I just grab my choker, pull my traps out. So anyways, we're gonna let this boil for about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, and I'll continue to boil the rest of my traps. I'll continue to bowl the rest of my traps until they all have the initial bowl. And then we'll come back and we'll start the dyeing process. So just keep hanging with me, and here in just a second we'll be dyeing traps. Alright guys, this is why it's so important to pre-boil your traps in clean water. As you can see, I've brought this down to a simmer now. I took away the rolling bowl, but all that stuff, this is just clean water on those traps. And there's hair from last year, the old residue, the old wax residue from last year, and junk, and the powdery rust and stuff like that. Well, anyways, this is why the initial clean water boil is so important. So after I get done doing the initial clean water boils, I'll get to dyeing. Now, after every dozen traps I boil, I pour the water off. I start with clean water because there's no use in boiling traps in dirty water. The initial clean water boil, that is. So anyways, just hang tight with me and I'll get to the next step of dyeing the trap. Alright guys, well I've done cleaned all my traps, and now I've got a rolling boiling pot of water going on here. I got my log dye, and what I'm going to do is I want to put my log dye in, get it mixed. I don't want to put my log dye in cold, not boiling water, because in the past I've done that and let the temperature come up and I've scalded my dye, and it's been stuck all in the bottom of my pot. So first I want to start off with a rolling pot of water, and then I'll cut open my log dye. The package says this will do up to 3 dozen traps, and that's pretty much true from what I've noticed. It'll actually do a lot more. I'll get this boiling real good, all mixed up just from the boiling process. And I got to turn the water down, fixing to overflow. Oh, we got it just in time. Oh, we almost had a mess up just then, but we made it. We're going to let that calm down, and then we're going to get it heated up again. Everything can't be perfect. If I had a small pot, we'd have been in a bad situation just then. But luckily my pot was big enough to hold the swell. Anyways, we got the old fire going again. We'll give it a little stir. Let that mix all up in there from the boiling process, and we'll drop our traps in. So these traps have been cleaned, and now we're going to dye them. If you notice, I dropped these traps in this big keg right here. They all fit really well. So now we've got our log dye at a slow simmer. Our traps are in, and here in about 30 minutes we'll pull them. They'll be fully dyed. The package says an hour, but you really don't have to use in the entire hour. 30 minutes is just fine. And after I get done boiling all my traps, I'll add more dye as needed. But after I get through boiling all my traps, I'm not going to throw this water away. I'm going to take sealable buckets, let this cool down. I'm going to pour this dye into them sealable buckets because I got more traps to dye. I'm only going to get probably 2 or 3 dozen done today, and I don't want to throw out all my log dye. So we'll keep that for next weekend when I continue to boil traps. So after we get our traps boiled, then we're going to go into the waxing process, and there's some really key points we need to go through on the waxing process. So just stay tuned, let these dudes simmer, and give me a couple minutes. Alright guys, well, I've got my cleaning done, my boiling done, my dyeing done, so now it's time to wax. So anyways, in this pot right here, I've probably got 15 pounds of wax, and I've been using this wax now for, probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I don't know, quite a while. Wax doesn't go bad. You have to add a pound of wax here and there, but wax itself doesn't go bad. So let's get the wax in our traps. And this is probably the most important thing of maintaining your traps, because wax protects it from the elements basically, and it keeps it lubricated, and it makes your traps last a really long time. So let's get to waxing some traps. Alright guys, well I got my wax here and I got a trap dangling down in there. This is the wrong way to wax a trap. So we stick the trap down in there and we instantly pull it up. So if you'll notice, that trap right there has got a coat of wax that is turned white instantly. That's because we didn't allow the trap to get hot enough to actually get to the same temperature of the wax. So let's stick it back down in there and let's let it get the same temperature of the wax. Now this takes a little while, but it's necessary to properly wax the trap. So we're just going to sit here for a moment, let the trap get to the same temperature. If you want to check it, you just pull it up. We're pretty close. You see how the wax is dripping off of the trap? It's still not quite hot enough, so we'll put it down in there. Normally I'll leave them in there for about a minute. I'm just doing this quickness right here just to show you what a improperly waxed trap looks like. And here in a second we'll see what a properly waxed trap looks like. So just bear with me. I bet that trap's hot enough now. Alright, you notice how the trap did not turn white instantly, because the trap's hot enough to keep the wax melted, and all the excess wax, I'm going to shake it a couple times and drip off all the excess wax, and that'll be a pretty decently waxed trap when we hang it up and let it dry and cool down. Alright guys, well these traps are complete now. This trap is probably 8 to 10 year old trap. It don't look much different than new. This trap's the same difference, 8 to 10 year old trap. They've caught a pile of critters. Well anyways, that is the benefit of taking care of your traps, properly dyeing and waxing them. And these traps, my son and probably my grandchildren will be trapping with these traps. So always take care of your traps. I hope this helps somebody, and y'all have a great day.